So in most home theaters, you've got one of two problems going on, and they're both the same core issue. And that is either you're on a concrete slab, and then you're trying to move a concrete slab, and that's very difficult to do because the concrete is extremely massive. So there's a physics concept that's going to come in here, and I'll mention the other one before I get into the physics concept. The other one is a rigid floor. So you are on a second floor, you're actually going to get much more tactile effect on a second floor than you would be on a first floor, assuming the first floor is not a wooden floor, but actually a concrete slab floor. Or basement theaters, they're like the worst because the whole thing's underground and you're trying to move all that. And so you don't get a real tactile effect with those types of systems all that well. So as I said, being on a second floor or on a wood floor that's not actually on concrete but kind of sprung on its own, such as being on trusses, they tend to give you more base, and there's a reason for that, and this is the physics concept. And that is momentum. So many people think of momentum as the idea that an object that's in motion will stay in motion until something slows it down, right? Like air or other forms of resistance, ground resistance. But momentum from a physics standpoint is really the idea of what it takes to get an object moving in the first place. So it's the amount of energy you need to do that. And mass is a part of that equation. So when you take a wooden floor and you tie it to the rest of the house, the mass you're trying to move is not just the trusses and the plywood, but also, because it's now been connected, it's the added mass that the resistance of the whole rest of the house's structure and rigidity causes. And because it actually does flex a little bit, you do have the ability to move that, but the subwoofers aren't going to move the whole house. So that's why a floor on trusses gives you a much more tactile effect than you would get than a concrete floor, because there is that movement, but it's still not as good as it could be. And then on a concrete floor, of course, you've got the problem of it's the whole mass of the concrete floor rigidly coupled to the earth itself. Subwoofers are just not going to move that. And so you just don't get much of a tactile effect from that.